Some an emergency.
Overwhelming odds can never be overcome unless people are willing to work together. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of bravery, love, and caring that know no limits on Rescue 911. We begin along the north coast of Queensland, Australia, as tourists and local townsfolk were enjoying one of the area's magnificent beaches. Most of the footage in this story was taped as events unfolded, beginning on the afternoon of August 16th, 1991. That afternoon, lifeguard supervisor Scott Bravey was patrolling Peregian Beach.
I saw this whale cruising along 50 feet offshore, no more. A couple of small waves broke seaward of him, and he just scraped his belly on the bottom and got washed into shore. Some people, bystanders, were going there trying to rock the whale, rocking off the sandbar. It didn't work at all.
Peter, can you come out here? We've got some sheets we can put over the whale, and we need people with buckets. People that aren't pushing the whale, we need buckets to keep him wet. He'll dehydrate or and get sunburn from the heat.
We didn't think the whale had much chance at all. All we could do was keep throwing water on him, keep him cool, and wait until the experts arrived.
What I can suggest, folks, is everybody can get up around the head and hold the head into the water. Very careful down the tail, because if it moves its tail, it'll break you in half.
My initial thoughts were this animal has very little chance.
Chris Warner, the curator at Underwater World, was the first expert on the scene.
We have a hot day. We have a tide that's going out. It's getting hot. It's getting burnt. He was in fairly serious danger of boiling in his own blubber unless something was done.
Chris called in the Marine Rescue Team from SeaWorld, led by Rescue Coordinator Trevor Long. By the time they arrived, a large crowd had gathered around the whale.
I was concerned for these people because I don't think they realised the potential danger that they had themselves in. The weight of the animal was 30 tonne. If the animal was to move its tail in a violent action, you've got 4 tonne of body mass that could break you or even kill you.
Together, the experts assessed the whale's condition.
These animals come up for usually only one reason, and they usually come up to die.
But they determined that this whale was healthy and might survive if they could get it back into open water.
We've done quite a lot of work with the humpbacks as far as research, but getting one off the beach is another kettle of fish. We decided that we'd have to tow the animal off the beach to free it from the beach, and the only way we were going to tow it was with a large vessel.
Trevor put in a call then to SeaWorld to ask for our 60-foot rescue and research vessel to start making its way up to Peregian Beach.
The animal was tending to be pushed side onto the waves. If this happened, a large wave could have rolled the animal and submerged the blowhole, and of course it would have drowned if that was the case.
SeaWorld trainer Kerry Haynes Lovell took over organizing volunteers who worked through the night to keep the whale facing into the waves.
We limited the shifts to 30 minutes. People get very emotionally involved when they're trying to rescue animals, and particularly this one, because he was so rare an occurrence, and they forget how cold they're getting, even with wetsuits.
You couldn't physically get enough people around the animal. We actually had, in some cases, there were 2 and 3 deep, people pushing on the back of other people who were pushing on the animal.
As volunteers fought to keep the whale alive, Trevor and Chris tried to design a sling that could pull the more than 30-ton mammal back out to sea.
The sling had to be self-releasing, because if the animal had a mind to go where it wanted to go, it could have quite easily have sunk the SeaWorld boat that was towing it.
We're in the middle of the night, we're all tired, we've been there all day, we're wet, we're cold. There's no book that you can look up and say, whale sling, 30 tonnes, what am I going to use?
You were lucky to have these straps here, Chris.
I had never had any experience regarding the movement of an animal of this size off the beach. I'd had a bit of experience in moving large sharks, and I also have a background as an engineer. So I know a little bit about forces and lifting things and how to move things.
We've got to get someone to get it off if we can.
You can cut it off in a hurry or something, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, mate, yes.
The next morning, Trevor and Chris brought the sling to the beach.
It was quite a depressing sight. And the animal was completely surrounded by sand. There was no water there.
The situation had become more desperate.
The whale was certainly in worse shape than it was when we'd first arrived there the day before. Its breathing had become extremely laboured and almost seemed like it had given up the will to live.
When we continue,
We felt if we didn't get him off at that next midday tide, we would lose him. The heavy equipment that were there would be there to bury him, not to save him.
it had been more than 18 hours since the humpback whale had become stranded on the shores in Queensland, Australia. Rescuers and volunteers were doing all they could to free the 35-ton animal, but time was running out.
We started to dig around the animal with just shovels. We needed bigger equipment.
Mr. Calling anyone with a wetsuit, any adult male or female with a wetsuit that could possibly assist us. Would you like, please come forward to this marshalling area?
We attempted to build a sand wall which would allow wave action to dig a natural channel out past the animal. It was a race against time.
These people started off as spectators, but as more of a calling out for volunteers, shoes and socks came off and shorts came off and people were moving into the water to help as much as they could. It was like a beehive.
Ladies and gentlemen, any of those with wetsuits, we need a change out there on the whale. We need a change out there.
It was amazing to see thousands of people there helping that one whale, and to think the fact that only a few years ago we were hunting these animals or hunting these whales in their thousands. You know, it's quite heartening.
It's just extraordinary, and it's wonderful to see Australians rallying to do something for an animal that didn't even ask to be.
One chap, he came up to me and he asked, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, well, more or less jokingly, I said, "Can you dig me a channel through the surf?" And he said, "I'll give it a good go." And next minute he was out there in the surf with his equipment trying to dig this channel through the surf.
This is what these guys actually do for a living. This wasn't a hobby for them. These machines were their livelihood, so if they drown them, that was their livelihood gone.
At this stage, I put it as a long shot because the tides are receding from this tide. So the situation's going to get worse every tide. So really, this has got to be our best chance.
We felt if we didn't get him off at that next midday tide, we would lose him. That unfortunately, the heavy equipment that were there would be there to bury him, not to save him.
Starting to get a trench, starting to get some water under the animal so I can breathe properly.
As the tide rose and the animal felt more water around its body, it started to become a little bit more active. It could have fought, it could have done a tremendous amount of damage to the people around it, and it could have jeopardised the whole operation, but it remained calm. I do think the animal knew that we were trying to help it.
It was getting extremely dangerous. The waves were getting really strong. It was very dangerous for our boat as well. It was sitting out behind the breakers, and I can tell you I was glad I wasn't out there because it was rocking and rolling.
There was a window of opportunity that would allow us to free the animal from the beach, but it was only a very small time frame. We realised we were only going to get one chance.
We had to go down and get these loops over the animal's petrol fins. The current was that strong, it was actually pulling the mask off my face underwater. It was a hell of a difficult job.
Putting the loops over the petrol fins is probably like putting a tight pair of jeans on while you're standing in a crowded moving bus. We all joined hands just to stop the slings from being washed away because our feet were being washed away from underneath us. You're very anxious, you're emotional, you're keyed up. You've got people in the water holding the animal still. You've got another group of people which are holding the sling. If this operation didn't work the first time, the animal was going to die.
Can you hear me, Seawall 1? Seawall 1.
No problems on the deck? No problems on the deck?
I remember being down under the water, waiting for the boat to take up the slack on the rope. It seemed like an eternity until the rope actually came tight.
He's on his way out. I find it very difficult to put into words what I felt at that time. I had tears in my eyes, and I suppose there was another part of me that was saying, geez, you can't stand and cry here on the beach in front of all these people. But that's what I felt like. I felt like going down on my knees. It was an emotional time.
When 7,000 people cheer, you have to be moved by it. I looked around, I saw Trevor. He had tears in his eyes. I had tears in my eyes. I turned away. We had the Minister for Environment. He turned around. I was looking straight at him. He's crying. He runs up and hugs me. You feel like running around and hugging 7,000 people. Once he got out there, he just took off. He swam past the boat. He just swam out of the sling and said, see you later, guys. Thanks very much. I'll see you next year.
Months have passed. All the people who helped out that day are proud of what they worked together to accomplish.
I don't believe that anywhere in the world there was an animal of this size and of this weight and this species which had ever been rescued before. It was a first.
Look at that. Oh, that was good, Splash. That was good.
It was extremely rewarding just to be a part of it.
Come on, Splash. That's a girl, Splash. Good girl. Good.
I don't want to see a whale stranded. I don't want to see any animal in distress. But to have that feeling again of succeeding with a whole group of people is just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Everybody was a hero that day. It was a job well done. We'd all accomplished what we'd set out to do. We'd saved our humpback whale.
because humans were always mucking up this planet. It was a small thing we could do to undo the damage that mankind in general has done. If this attitude can be developed, not just towards whales, but to all animals, we might just reverse a few of these trends towards the destruction of the planet.
Next.
I heard a couple, if not 3, screams. And when I heard my baby, I started to pick up the pace a little bit.